And this is something that came about for him as taking that change that he wanted to see in the world and being the advocate and the one who made that into reality. And I think it'd be an interesting talk to hear about the gift economy from Mike Fair. Everybody, please.
Is this on? Is this mic on? I don't know if I need to. Okay.
Hi all, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. The gift economy is a weird thing in the sense that people see a whole lot of giving, but they don't quite understand a whole lot of receiving, where they see receiving stuff, but they're not quite sure how anybody gets paid. How do you decide where you're going to live? How do you decide what car you're going to drive? How do you put your kids through college, pay medical bills, tuition, rent, all those just ordinary, everyday things when you're busy giving your stuff away all the time? How is that going to work? And human beings are this amazing thing that get to live inside of our own invented stories. And one of the powerfully invented stories that we've come up with as a community is this money economy that does a decent job of directing money towards those who have produced for society. That's its intent. That was the idea behind it, was you go out, you do something important and useful for people, they then reward you with this monetary unit that you can then go give to other people who do stuff that's important to you. Automation has changed the dynamics of how that works. And it's going to continue to do so. And I'm just going to ask to accept on faith that that's going on. If any of you are in doubt of how robots and automation and software and the internet are transforming the labor force and the ability of people to become more productive as individuals. So the population is going up, the productivity per person is going up. That compounding effect means we are insanely productive. It's so productive, in fact, fewer people on the planet can actually do all the work required to manage the means of all the people. And many of you have heard this story before. I don't feel like I'm saying anything that hasn't already been identified. So the question then became, well, what do we do about that? The gift economy is one concept that we've kind of come up with. And the way I'm going to phrase it for you today is we flip it from having a currency like money to a currency like electricity. The massive shift in idealism that we'd make is take electricity and turn it into a commons owned resource. All electricity we produce in the world is effectively state managed. It's not state produced. There's still independent producers. But the grid itself is managed as sort of a government instrument. Take the total sum of all kilowatt hours that we've produced and divide that equally across the populace. It's kind of a form of universal basic income. The purpose to this is then people have a unit with which to vote on what automation we're going to empower and what automation we're going to let drown out. By having people vote in a stock market-like fashion on who gets to use their power, they individually make a choice on who and what they're going to empower. There's only a finite amount of electricity that we've produced today. If we as a society has decided that we're not making enough electricity because we can't get all the stuff we think is important done, we'll build more power plants. If we think we've got way too much, maybe we'll turn some off. Most likely what we'll do is we'll just direct it to other places and more entertainment. I doubt we're going to actually scale back the amount of electricity we're producing. That then becomes how you manage your daily life. You have a portfolio, and you look at your investment portfolio where your energy is going. And then you turn on the news, and there's a big stock market report. XYZ sector has consumed so many megajoules this month. XYZ person has wasted so many megajoules this month. And you look at your portfolio, and you say, you know what? I'm invested in that. Move, and you're done. On a daily basis, your portfolio will continue to empower the things that you've selected. That will then continue to drive the economy. This whole stock market system is then a feedback loop into how people decide where the energy is going to be for them to go work on problems to solve. It then becomes basically a Facebook profile or a Kickstarter campaign. Hey, I want to do this really cool thing. I could use some power to do it.
And then a whole bunch of people say, yeah, I'll give you 0.001% of my energy to do that. And you get a few 100,000 people to do that, or a few thousand people to do that, and all of a sudden you have enough power to run an individual or a few individuals. In the automation world and robotics world, electricity is directly convertible into work. You take electricity and it's not like money, which is like kind of this idea of this representation of work that you can go exchange with somebody. No, literally, you take the electrons, you shove it through a robot or a 3D printer, and out rolls a car. It's just a matter of whether or not you have enough to take the number of electrons that you're passing through the system, to shove it through the automation system, to roll out the car that will then drive itself to your house. These are things we can already see that we can do. This then continues to scale. You even have robots that build more power systems. So the system itself is sort of self-perpetuating and self-growing. And then we have a whole different set of problems to solve. But they aren't, how do we eat today? How do we get food? How do we get shelter? It's, how do we deal with our own success? How do we handle all the kids we're now having because we've got too much free time on our hands? Those become the new problems that we're attempting to solve. And given that we're not so stressed about where we're going to get our food next month or next year, we're more able to sit down and be cooperative with each other, to collaborate, to work on these problems, and to share our ideas. It's not, that's a good idea, let me hoard it. It's, I don't want to do it, it's a good idea, but let me go give it to somebody who thinks it's easy. And because it's all shared, it's like, hey, everybody, would you guys please give that guy some energy so he can do that thing for me? And if people agree with you or agree with your idea, they'll do so. This also creates the opportunity for people who are effectively tastemakers, bloggers, journalists. You as an individual having to decide who exactly you're going to give money to on an individual person basis is way too complicated. People in the world who are experts in particular fields will have opinions. They'll put out a blog, they'll put out a journal article, and they'll put out an investment portfolio. They say, hey, this is my opinion in this particular industry. These are the people who I think are the important players. This is the future I think they're working on. This guy's really good, this guy's really good, this guy's really good. I don't know which one of them is right, but one of them is. If you like what that person is saying, you can then just subscribe to their portfolio. So you don't actually have to decide exactly who you're going to go give the money to. You just decide what you think is important and who you think should have the ability to decide how your energy is allocated. As they change their opinion, you're eating dinner, your portfolio automatically changes, and you don't have to do anything about it. Because you've entrusted them to allocate that power for you. And again, all this system is in a big internet feedback graph. We can paint pictures of it, do heat maps, we can see flows. And when you're on the receiving end, you can see how much money we're producing as an economy. You can see, I'm calling it money, but it's currency. You can see how much has been allocated to you. You're getting it in daily drops. And as long as as long as you don't anger your entire power base, where everybody all of a sudden floods away, you have a predictability on what you're going to have next month, 6 months, a year and a half from now. If you're a nonprofit organization or some other organization and you're looking at, do I have enough energy to get this project accomplished? You can look. Do we have the income for that? If you're close on budget, maybe you do a campaign to try and go get some more inflow. And because the allocations are sticky, you don't have to do that every year. In short, people don't like to make a whole lot of decisions and do a whole lot of actions. So once we make one, we'd rather not change it. So as an organization who's receiving this inflow, the predictability that you're going to continue to receive that inflow is really high, which gives you security and stability in terms of being able to focus on the work that you promise people you'd be working on, and not necessarily an exchange, because it's not like a trade, but as a gift. Because we're going to make sure you have what you need. You're going to make sure we get whatever it was you promised. And that's how it's going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, time? I don't know how much time we have. I don't know how long.
Have you done it? What are your thoughts about corruption?
It kind of goes away on its own because they get disempowered. Once you figure it out, they can only last. So the system isn't designed to, it's kind of like an immune system. I don't stop it from getting sick. I just trust that once people figure out it is sick, they'll disempower whatever's maligned in the system. So it's a routing system more than it is a preventive system.
So ultimately, this economy requires ubiquitous connectivity and everybody online with some kind of instrument at their disposal that are
Almost. It requires a majority of connectedness. So there's a section of the connected world that takes care of the unconnected world. And that's like there's a promise of people who said, you know what, I care about the people who aren't connected. And we say, yeah, we think that's important, so you get energy too.
All right, so somehow the individual who chooses to live in a cardboard box under the overpass is a participant?
They can accept or not accept the benefactors who show up to donate to them. But if we don't know about you, if you're so good at being off-grid that we don't know about you, you get to be off-grid. I'm not going to try and find you. You know, I love the fact that we have free will. And if you choose to be unconnected, I'm not going to make you participate in a society you somehow feel is oppressive or disempowers you because it's so helpful. You know, it's like there's people who take pride in standing on their own, and that's an important aspect of humanity to do that. I think it's also how the system itself is going to figure out what it might be doing wrong that has somebody choose not to participate. And there'll be people who think that's just an important thing, and they'll say that'll be their shtick. And there'll be a section of the planet that says, yeah, I think figuring out what we're doing is wrong is important. You guys should eat too. And so it's a directed energy system more than, so I call it future-based allocations. Future-based allocations of resources, FUBAR, or versus past-based allocations of currency, PEBCAC. That's so if you're in computer science or in computers at all, both those acronyms mean something, and they both are basically mean that they both suck. But and the reason I say the new one sucks is because all it does is create different problems. But the problems I'd rather be focused on. I don't pretend this is a utopia. I don't pretend it's not. And like she brought up, you can get away with it for a short period of time until you get found out. And I believe people will find out. And in a highly connected world, which, like you identified, this requires, Facebook, we talk. We love to talk to each other. We love to share with each other. Celebrities are going to get more resources than non-celebrities just because they're higher in the network. But mostly what they're going to do is they're just going to become really good allocators. Because what do you do with 60 megajoules of energy? You can't eat it. I mean, you could self-consume it, but that just means you have to direct it to others in order to do stuff for you, which is the whole point. Yeah, it doesn't accumulate. Electricity is interesting. You either use it or lose it. It's really hard to store it effectively.
Would this be an end to advertising?
Yes. No, it would shift advertising. What you do and who you are becomes ultra important. So you've got two people in front of you. Both of them say they're going to provide clean water to the world. Who do you bet on? Now, in this system, I say it's easy. You just bet on both. Because the energy it costs you to support the loser is way drowned out by the success of the winner. But let's say you actually wanted to make a decision. You want to support the right one, the one that's going to succeed. Well, who they are matters. So their profiles and their history and the stories of who they are matter. Now, what's going to be an end to is advertising of products. A lot of you won't get rewards for being dirty tricks that get you to do something now. When that's the kind of advertising I want to see go away, not the kind of promotion that actually makes a difference to getting successful products out there in the world. Thank you.
One more thing. That's my brother. Okay, that was it.